These players promised victories and championships, but all they delivered is a salary cap burden. These are the worst NBA contracts in 2023. There is nobody in the league who earns more and produces less than Ben Simmons. With a $35 million salary, Ben looks like a shell of his former self on both ends of the court. On offense, he is known as a notorious non-shooter, but this year his percentages have reached a new low. Simmons is shooting 45% from the field. He attempted just one three-pointer, but that's not even the worst part. Ben is shooting free throws at a historically bad 46% clip, which makes him the worst foul shooter in the NBA. And since he can't shoot, Simmons is hesitant to drive to the basket because he's afraid to get fouled. He's averaging a career-low 4 drives to the basket, compared to 16 drives per game in 2018. It's gotten so bad that his teammates yell at him to shoot the ball.
Drops it off, Simmons.
It's embarrassing. To add icing to the bad-tasting cake, Ben is no longer the defensive powerhouse he once was. He's probably not fully healed from the back injury, and his head is just not in it to win it. All in all, the Nets got bamboozled into trading Harden for Simmons, and the worst part is that they still owe Ben $77 million after the 2023 season. But somehow, that's not the biggest trade bamboozlement from last year. Do you remember when Shaq had beef with Rudy Gobert because Rudy signed a mammoth $200 million contract?
I'm looking at that BS contract that your boy from Utah just got.
At the time, we just thought that O'Neal was playing his usual role of petty white. Sure, Rudy is a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, and with the right matchups, he can swallow up the entire offense and guard all 5 players on one possession. However, when the playoffs come, opposing teams will certainly apply the tried-and-true approach against Rudy. They will force him outside the guard on the perimeter, where his value as a rim protector drops massively. Offensively, Gobert's always been too stiff, and if you don't force-feed him the ball inches away from the basket, Rudy's a non-threat. So Minnesota traded for Gobert and gave away 4 very good players and 5 picks. We repeat, 5 first-round picks for a center that clogs the paint and is less valuable in the playoffs than in the regular season. The early returns of Gobert in Minnesota have not been good, and this could end up as one of the worst trades in NBA history. It will be even worse if Karl-Anthony Towns figures out he can't play alongside Gobert and asks for a trade. Rudy is still in year 2 of his mega contract, and the Timberwolves owe him $130 million after this season. It hurts us to say this, but another former All-Star who is underperforming and looks a little washed up is Klay Thompson. Charles Barkley took a lot of criticism for criticizing Klay, but there is a reason why Charles is the GOAT of television. He's the only guy that dares to openly say what everybody else is thinking.
There was a time when Klay Thompson was the best two-way guard in the NBA, and he's not the same guy.
Yes, Klay Thompson helped the Warriors win the 4th title after the 2 worst injuries for a basketball player. During their last championship run, Klay averaged 19 points and 39% shooting from 3, which is on par for his career averages. However, at the beginning of this season, Klay's form has fallen off a cliff. A guy who owns an NBA record for 3-pointers made in a game and who scored 37 points in 1 quarter suddenly can't hit an ocean from a boat. At the moment of creating this, Thompson is shooting an abysmal 35% from the field and 33% for 3. Also, he is far from the defensive stopper he once was. Klay is making $40 million this season and will earn $43 million next year at the age of 34. Based on his contract, he's heavily underperforming at the start of the season. But we still believe in him, and we don't think this shooting slump will last forever. While Klay will never regain his former defensive greatness, his shooting will come, and it's more than likely that he'll be a dangerous factor when it matters most. But do you know which Golden State player disappointed us far worse than Klay Thompson? It's a guy on a rookie contract, so you can't really say that he's massively overpaid. But James Wiseman was so bad at the beginning of the season that he fell out of rotation and got sent to the G League.
What the hell were you doing that you're 7 foot behind you in the G League?
And because he's earning $10 million this season, he does belong on this list. Wiseman was the number 2 overall pick in the 2020 NBA draft. Since then, he missed half of his rookie year and the entire sophomore season due to a knee injury. He finally returned this year, but the return on the Warriors' investment is close to 0, if not negative, and are minus 22 points per 100 possessions with James on the floor. Wiseman is terrible at defending the rim, and even worse at securing rebounds, which is a tragedy for a 7'1" center. It's because he's almost always out of position, and he can't pass if his life depended on it. A big problem for him is that the Warriors are in win-now mode, And for him, it would be better if he played on a losing team that is all about developing talent. It's too early to call James a bust, and Steve Kerr's motion offense is hard to learn for veterans, let alone for young players with virtually no experience. But in his third year with the team, Weissman has shown zero progress, and it's fair to say he's worse now than he was as a rookie. Weissman will earn $40 million on his rookie contract. And for that kind of money, the Warriors expected more, and they probably should have drafted LaMelo Ball instead.
You in the G League, bro?
And speaking of high draft picks that didn't pan out, do you still remember Markelle Fultz? Fultz was the first overall pick in the 2017 draft, selected over guys like Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, Bam Adebayo, and De'Aaron Fox. When you watched him at the University of Washington, Fultz looked like the second coming of Damian Lillard, scoring 23 points per game and shooting 43% from deep. And then he came to Philadelphia, where he developed a hitch in his shot. It looked like Charles Barkley's golf swing, like a 1-second lag or a glitch before the actual shot. Fultz later claimed that it was a thoracic outlet syndrome in his shoulder, or whatever you want to call it. The man had a broken shot. It was the most bizarre thing we've ever seen from a first overall pick, who ended up playing just 33 games for the Sixers, averaging 7 points. Just 2 years after he was the first player to shake Adam Silver's hand, Fultz got traded to Orlando. With the Magic, Fultz's shot was still crooked, but he somehow managed to make it work, appearing in 72 games, averaging 12 points and 5 assists, and even making some outside shots. In year 4, Fultz got injured at the beginning of the season, but that didn't stop Orlando from offering him a 3-year, $50 million extension. Since that extension, Markelle played just 18 games for the Magic and is now on the shelf due to a toe injury. He's earning $16.5 million this year and is owed $17 million in 2024, which is a lot of money for a player with an injury bug and a broken shot. Fultz played in just 131 career games. He averages just 10 points, and he still earned close to $90 million in NBA salary. We're sorry that he's got injury problems, but he's one of the most overpaid players in the last 5 years. The same can be said for his teammate, Jonathan Isaac, who was also dealing with nagging injuries. Isaac was the 6th pick in the same draft class, and like Fultz in 2020, he also signed a big extension. The Magic gave him $70 million over 4 years due to his defensive potential, but since he signed that contract, Isaac hasn't played a single game. 2023 is the 3rd straight season we haven't seen him play in an NBA game, but his checks keep on coming, and he'll be earning $17 million per year until 2025. Now that we covered some expensive non-shooters, let's talk about three-point shooters who are stealing money from their teams. At number 1, there's Duncan Robinson, whose career blossomed like a butterfly from a caterpillar. Duncan started as a G League player, then became a part of the Heat's rotation, where he quickly earned a starting spot and established himself as one of the best three-point marksmen in the NBA. In 2020, Duncan was a big part of Miami's trip to the NBA Finals, and in 2021, he continued with the great shooting form, sinking 41% of his threes on nearly 9 attempts per game. Those are Steph Curry-type numbers. The Heat gave Robinson a 5-year, $90 million deal, after which his transformation reversed, and Duncan became a caterpillar again. In 2022, his efficiency dropped by 5 percentage points, and his defense became unbearable. It got so bad that Spoelstra couldn't barely play him in the playoffs, because as soon as he got on the floor, the opposing teams started attacking Robinson on every possession. This season, Duncan is averaging less than 20 minutes per game. His defense hasn't improved, and he's shooting blanks. Robinson made only 35% of his field goals and less than 31% of his three-pointers. Russell Westbrook is currently more efficient than him, and that's all we need to say about his shooting struggles. Another player in a similar predicament is Davis Bertans. In 2020, the Latvian sharpshooter averaged 15 points per game on 43% shooting from deep, and the Wizards rewarded him with a 5-year, $80 million contract. Since then, his shooting percentages dropped as quickly as panties in adult movies, and his defense went from bad to terrible. Bertans' lack of mobility makes him look like a corpse on defense, and he's currently not even playing, while the money keeps rolling in. But we can't end the video without mentioning the Old Faithful, a player who made this list in the past 2 years as well. It's, of course, Tobias Harris, who is the best paid third option in NBA history, earning $37 million in 2023 and nearly $40 million in 2024. But that's still not the worst of them all, because the proud owner of the worst contract in the NBA is Mr. Russell Westbrook. Russ is earning $47 million in 2023, which is the 2nd biggest salary in the NBA. That kind of money should be reserved for a top 10 player, but Westbrook's production is that of a flawed role player and not a superstar.
Russell Westbrook, the brother can't shoot.
The Lakers tried to get rid of him on numerous occasions, but his huge contract proved to be untradeable. In his first year with the Lakers, Russ couldn't hide behind a triple-double average anymore, and the whole world began to realize that Westbrook does not play winning basketball. Russ was arguably the worst defender in the NBA, on top of being a turnover machine, and one of the worst shooters in the league. This year, we have to give credit to his defense and say that he finally started giving a shit. It took him some time, but he is no longer just watching the ball as the opponent's action unravels. His new role off the bench is also more suitable to his skill set, and Russ has had some games which he positively impacted with his passing and speed in transition. However, all the compliments stop there. Russ is 34 years old, and his vertical athleticism is a thing of the past. Yes, he's still fast in a straight line. Russ can't soar over the defense and finish at the rim as he could before. For $47 million, the Lakers hoped they were going to win one more championship. All they got was a loaded salary cap with no flexibility, and 2 squandered seasons of AD's and LeBron's prime. And if you're a Lakers fan, this is not even frustrating at this point. It's just sad.
We don't want to watch the first round exit. We want the Lakers to be back.
And since we're talking about overpaid former All-Star point guards, let's just mention John Wall, who got bought out of his $47 million deal with the Rockets. But at least he's still in the league, unlike Kemba Walker, who will earn $36 million in 2023. And he's so washed up that no team wanted to sign him as a free agent. Slightly less overpaid, but still enough to deserve a mention, is D'Angelo Russell, who is not playing as the $32 million star we once thought he was. There's also Mike Conley, who is playing reasonably well for a 35-year-old point guard, but he shouldn't be earning $22 million this season, and $24 in 2024. The same goes for Kyle Lowry, who we love dearly. Lowry is too old to be making $28 million at the age of 37, $30 million next season when he's 38.